So let's talk about my Scout PVE build right now. So first, the item. I'm using this. Still, I'm not using any tier 3 item. In fact, I'm not using even tier 3 items for PvP yet. So this is what I'm using. This is not even full trade. Like, look at this. It's missing max health and buff duration. This is missing buff duration as well. The boots doesn't have anything. So the gloves are okay. So this is what I'm using right now. Of course, this is not going to what I'm going to use for tier 3. It's going to be probably the critical damage set. Brutal something, I think it was. No, blood something. I don't remember the name right now. The one that boosts the critical damage, which 2 pieces is 200 critical and 4 pieces is extra critical damage. These are the stats according to these items. I cannot get to 70 wisdom here because I don't want to overspend stats, because I want to maximize my max damage. And I have high perception because, as I was saying, I cannot boost more wisdom. I cannot boost more dexterity because it's a maximum. And between strength and perception, perception is better because it increases buff duration. Also, bear in mind that my weapons are for PvP. I'm not using dexterity as synergy in neither of them. And in fact, my bow is also missing a level of attack speed, so it's 2% more. What else? Between the weapons, okay. I have run several tests between Akman and Belandir. And if as Fury, Belandir was better because the poison was helping during the explosions, as a Scout, Belandir is a no-go. Akman is much better. In every test, Akman is always 10, 15, 20 seconds faster. And it makes sense. Why? First, as a Scout, as we have the mark, we are refreshing all the cooldowns very fast. That includes selfless diffusion. Okay? So, what does this mean? This means that we are going to spend more time using selfless diffusion and therefore using Akman skills. But it's not only that. If we compare Akman with Belandir, we have that Akman have much better stats for PvE. We have dexterity, we have wisdom, we have attack speed, we have cooldown speed, and right now this crossbow is using weaken chance as a straight resonance. Ideally it should be cooldown, but I'm not wasting the new resonance stones for changing that. Meanwhile, Belandir only have dexterity because we don't care about stamina and we don't care about bonus damage for PvE. That's why Akman is much better. If you ask me what's better, Akman or the new crossbow, because I have the new crossbow here as well. I haven't leveled that yet, but in my opinion, I think Akman will still be better, and I'll tell you why. If we compare the stats, yes, this new crossbow is better because it has more stats. More dexterity, well, actually has the same 21 points. It has slightly less attack speed, but it has attack speed trait. This crossbow has attack speed trait. So, with the combination of all the stats, all the traits, in theory, this crossbow will be better. However, where is the difference? The difference is what I was saying earlier. What the passive of this crossbow triggers when you actually kill something. So for bosses, this is not good. This is good for PvP, this is good for Dominion fights and stuff like that. But for bosses, you are not killing something before to get these stacks. By contrast, you are having a very high uptime of selfless diffusion. So you are using a lot of Akman's fragments, basically. The other difference this bow has is the attack speed. It's much faster. So eventually it may be better. I'm not going to upgrade this yet because I think Akman is good enough for now. So I'm going to use my grow stones for leveling my armor and accessories. But when this crossbow is 12, of course I'm going to compare that with Akman. And maybe I was wrong, maybe this crossbow was much better since the beginning than Akman. But for now, I prefer to keep Akman and use my grow stones in some other items.
Even in battle.
So this is it for the items. As I was saying, this is what it is. It's not perfect, but it's what I was using basically. So now let's talk about the skills. I have run a lot of tests. In fact, I don't know how many achievements I have got so far about hitting the dummies. I think it's level 5 or 6 or whatever. Every now and then I have a new banner here about an achievement related to the dummies. Basically, I'm not able to kill the dummy in a minute. Not even close. I think my best time was 1 minute and 29. And normally it's about 1 minute and 35, 36, something like that. I have tried several different combinations. And it always ends up with this. And I explain you why. So, if you have watched other videos here in YouTube, probably you will have seen some scouts using Nimble Leap and using multi-shot to reset the Nimble Leap and spamming quick fires all the time. That combination first is a pain in the ass to pull off. You are constantly hitting a lot, and this combination is already very hard in the fingers. The other one is even worse, and the result was the same for me. For my current build and for what I'm doing, the result was the same or even worse. The best times I have got is either using weak point shot or using decisive sniping in this slot. And you may say, why decisive sniping? Because it seems counterproductive, because the idea is that when you have the mark, the detonation mark, you want to try to extend this as much as possible. But at least for me, it's giving me good results when I'm not fully loading decisive sniping, just giving a tap. What I'm doing is I pop Nature's Blessing for having the Whirlpool, and when I use the detonation mark, I just one tap decisive sniping, because it's a 25k hit. So I think it's worth it to wait a second for that extra damage. Of course, I only using that when using Nature Blessings and the mark, not between the rotation. However, ultimately I decided to replace decisive sniping for weak point shot. And why? Because I'm using weak point shot for two benefits. First, it's a curse. It's a weaken. And as it is a weaken, it's helping me reduce all the cooldowns when I'm using selfless diffusion. And secondly, it may happen that when I use weak point shot, it was a fury attack, so I'm getting this extra critical damage boost. Notice that I'm not saving my weak point shot for a fury attack. I'm using weak point shot as soon as I use self diffusion, because the main goal for me for this skill is just to help me lower the CD of all the other skills. The passive are basically this, and there is nothing else to pick actually, because I don't care about Death 3. I don't care about the stew, and as I'm not using Nimble Leap, I don't care about Nature's Power either. So this is basically what it is. In fact, I'm wasting this one right now because these are my masteries. I'm not using this, so basically that slot is irrelevant. I could basically remove this and add a shield, for example, because I'm not using the snaring arrow. I tried with that as well in this slot, and the result was the same. Because remember that bosses cannot be bound, but you can oppress them, so that will benefit. So as I was saying, these are my masteries for the bow. If I had a different build with over 80 wisdom, I would pick this node, because I want to have... No, sorry. Yes, okay. I want to have the extra cooldown speed. But as now I have 67, I don't mind picking this. Everything else I think is kind of self-explanatory. These are irrelevant. I'm using rapid fire stance, so it makes sense to pick this. I'm using Whirlpool, I want extra cooldown speed. I think everything is self-explanatory. And this is my one for Crossbow, mostly the same. In fact, I think there is something wrong here, because I already changed that for PvP if I recall correctly. Let me check. Yes. Basically, I don't give a fuck about Reaper's Skull. I need to tweak this because I don't care about the crossbow hit. The crossbow is basically a support weapon for me. It's there for help me make a lot of hits to lower the CDs of the bow skill. So I prefer to have the Agile Strike, because what I discovered, I didn't know that when I was playing Fury, is that this second benefit that it boosts your... Sorry. This is okay. I mean, I added this for PvP because what I discovered is that the second benefit, that you get extra hit when you land a critical hit, it's independently of the weapon. So you may not apply any weapon and you still get this benefit. But for PvE, this is irrelevant. For PvE, I don't care about hit. So it's okay as it is. Finally, about the specializations, the main ones are Zephyr's damage and cooldown, Strafing Gale and consecutive use, Brutal Arrow with Gale, because basically what I want to do is to have a steady supply of Gale, even though I'm not exploding the Gale. I'm always resetting the Gale with Zephyr. Basically my Gale is to boost my Zephyr's damage. I don't care about exploding the Gale, reaching the 25 stacks. Whirlpool in Nature's Blessing, and this Collision and Deadly Market Bullseye are just filler because I had extra points. For the crossbow, the same. I don't want to pick the damage because I don't want to increase my cooldown of Quick Fire. Quick Fire is just a support skill for me to load more gales and to lower the CDs. Everything else is more or less what's expected, getting extra mana because you really need that, boosting my critical and heavy attack when from attacking the boss, and lowering the CD of Wake Point Shot. So basically, what's the rotation looks like? What I do is I use both buff, I use both marks, I use brutal arrow because during selfless diffusion, brutal arrow is doing multiple ticks and that's going to extend the mark. And then basically using all the 3 skills on demand, something like that. Renewing the mark when available, rinse and repeat. Okay? So this is what I'm using as PvE when fighting bosses. Now, do I use this for raids or do I use this for co-op dungeons? The answer is no. For raids and co-op dungeons, I have a different skill bar. More, let's say, more defensive, okay? For example, notice that I no longer have the brutal arrow. Instead, I move the weak point shot to this slot and I replace brutal arrow with flash wave. Why? Because I want to have extra sustain during, especially during raids. I don't care about well, with the current co-ops as well, with Lucien and the elephant, I want to have extra sustain because you cannot always rely on the healer you have in your party. Because remember that as an everyday player, I don't care about having a static. I just join the random matchmaking and whoever is there is going to be my party. Notice that I have also replaced some skills here. I replaced the shield because remember that I had this one, the steady here, but I'm using the shield, but I replaced the shield for this just to increase my healing overall. Maybe I could even add the shield and replace something else. Probably I could replace rapid fire stance because, well, no. I was going to say because in raids we are always moving, but no, we also stay some time in the same position. Maybe I could replace this one because I don't care about bonus damage for PvE. So maybe I'm going to just do this. And the specialization as well are now different because now I want to boost all the healing. I want to have a specialization point in Healing Touch, in Nature's Blessing, and in Flash Wave. By contrast, I don't have this collision over here. This is fuck up for the copy. Let me fix this. So I don't have collision here. I don't have, what else? I have the main one as I was saying, basically the Zephyr's damage and cooldown, Strafing Gale and consecutive use, and the Whirlpool or Nature's Blessing, and all the others are related to healing. The Crossbow, I cannot get this extra hit over here, but it's a trade-off I have to make because it's 10 points. But everything else remains the same except for weak point shot that I don't have the cooldown spec now. But what's the difference? That for bosses I'm using weak point shot as soon as I have self-left diffusion to reduce the cooldown. For raids and for co-op dungeons I'm using weak point shot only when it's needed, when it's a fury attack. So that's the difference. That's why I don't really need the extra cooldown. So this is it for my PvE setup. I don't have a PvE setup for a skill bar for AoE farming, for example, because I don't do that as a scout. I prefer to do that as void lance when I need to farm because I find it more effective. But for everything else, for the bosses, for the raids, and actually for solo dungeons I haven't cleared it yet as a scout. I will do that tomorrow, because this week I already did as Fury, but tomorrow I will do that as a scout, and probably I will need to change something. Maybe it's going to be a mix of this and this, because I need to have more sustain, not only healing touch. So probably I'm going to have like this combination over here, the Flash Wave, Nature's Blessing, and Healing Touch. But I do also probably need Nimble Leap. So I don't know which one. I will post a video with that if I'm able to clear the Nightmare mode in the solo dungeons as Scout. Otherwise, I will just fall back to Fury, because Fury is so easy to clear those dungeons. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.